The pyramid of silver wealth. The global economy is shifting faster than investors expected. Currencies are weakening. Debt levels are accelerating. Supply chains remain fragile. And through all of it, one asset quietly rises in relevance: silver. Not as a trend, not as speculation, but as a historical store of value that has protected wealth for thousands of years. Today, we break down the silver wealth pyramid, 5 levels that reveal where you stand in the global stacking community. Each level reflects a different stage of economic resilience, from small holders to strategic accumulators. This is not hype. It's a framework built on scarcity, history, and real market behavior. By the end of this video, you'll understand how rare silver ownership truly is, and why moving up the pyramid has never mattered more in a world defined by uncertainty. Why silver wealth pyramid matters: because silver ownership is far rarer than most people realize. Global data suggests that fewer than 2% of individuals hold any meaningful amount of physical silver, and even fewer maintain it as part of a long-term wealth strategy. Yet throughout history, silver has served as a foundation of economic stability. It was money in ancient Greece. It backed empires during the Middle Ages. It supported global trade until the 20th century. And whenever paper currencies weakened, silver acted as a pressure valve that preserved real purchasing power. Today, the same structural forces are returning: high inflation, rising geopolitical risk, fragile banking systems, and growing distrust in fiat money. The pyramid matters because it creates a clear way to measure where you stand in this new environment. Small holders remain exposed to currency erosion. Larger holders gain resilience. And those who climb the pyramid position themselves to withstand economic shocks that have historically reshaped entire societies. The pyramid isn't about status. It's about survival in a financial world that is slowly losing its anchor. Level 1. The entry stacker. Level 1 is where the silver journey begins. The entry stacker typically holds between 1 and 99 ounces, an amount that represents curiosity more than strategy. It may be a few coins, a small bar, or a first attempt to diversify beyond cash and equities. At this level, silver serves as an introduction to physical assets. You learn how premiums work. You learn how supply shortages affect price. You learn the difference between spot value and real-world availability. Economically, however, this is not yet a hedge. The position is too small to offset inflation or currency erosion in any meaningful way. Historically, this pattern is common. During the shift away from silver-backed currency in the mid-20th century, most citizens held small amounts of silver simply because it circulated in their pocket change. Few understood its long-term importance until the metal was removed from the monetary system. The entry stacker stands in a similar place today, aware of silver's value, but not yet protected by it. At this level, the primary risk is vulnerability. You recognize the need for real assets, but the position is still too small to provide real economic resilience. Level 2. The foundation stacker. Level 2 marks the transition from curiosity to commitment. The foundation stacker typically holds between 100 and 499 ounces, enough to create a meaningful buffer against economic uncertainty. At this stage, silver is no longer a novelty. It becomes part of a broader financial strategy. You begin to recognize how physical metal behaves during inflation cycles, currency devaluation, or market volatility. Historically, this level mirrors the behavior of households during the inflation waves of the 1970s. Modest but consistent silver holdings helped families preserve purchasing power as the dollar weakened and consumer prices surged. The foundation stacker is positioned similarly today. With more than a symbolic amount of metal, this level provides a basic hedge against rising costs and short-term disruptions in the financial system. It does not guarantee full protection from major economic shocks, but it creates stability that most households lack. The main challenge now is discipline. Building a foundation requires consistency, steady accumulation, careful budgeting, and the willingness to prioritize long-term resilience over short-term convenience. At this level, the stack becomes a tool of preparedness, not a collection of coins. Level 3. The serious stacker. Level 3 represents a shift from basic preparation to genuine wealth protection. The serious stacker typically holds between 500 and 999 ounces. At this stage, silver is no longer a small allocation. It becomes a meaningful part of your net worth. This amount of metal can absorb real economic pressure. It can offset currency devaluation. It can strengthen a portfolio during recession cycles. It can protect purchasing power during market shocks. Historically, this level resembles the behavior of investors who held substantial precious metals positions during the 2008 financial crisis. While banks froze credit and markets collapsed, physical silver held value and offered liquidity outside the financial system. The Syria stacker stands in that same position today, independent, insulated, and strategically prepared. The focus now shifts to infrastructure. Storage matters. Security matters. Insurance becomes a practical consideration. You begin thinking not just about accumulation, but about allocation, what form of silver you hold, how liquid it is, and how quickly it can be moved in an emergency. Level 3 is the point where the stack is no longer a hobby. It is an asset class. A private reserve. A stabilizer in a world where stability is becoming increasingly rare. Level 4, the strategic stacker. Level 4 marks the transition from personal protection to long-term economic strategy. The strategic stacker typically holds between 1,000 and 4,999 ounces, an amount that functions as a private reserve rather than a simple investment. At this stage, silver becomes a structural part of your financial planning. It is no longer about reacting to market swings. It is about building multi-year resilience. This level of silver can hedge against prolonged inflation cycles, deep recessions, and periods of currency instability that stretch over decades. Historically, families and merchants who held comparable reserves in silver survived events that reshaped national economies, currency revaluations, debt crises, and rapid devaluation periods. The strategic stacker occupies that same position today. You now think in terms of liquidity planning, distribution strategies, and long-term storage. Diversification between coins, bars, and higher purity forms becomes more important. Privacy and security shift from optional to essential. With this amount of metal, decisions must be intentional and well-structured. Level 4 is where silver becomes a quiet form of economic sovereignty, steady, durable, and capable of supporting stability through financial landscapes that may take years to normalize. Level 5, the king level, the silver elite. Level 5 represents the summit of the silver wealth pyramid. The silver elite typically holds 5,000 ounces or more, an amount reached by only a very small fraction of stackers worldwide. At this level, silver is no longer a hedge. It is a parallel form of wealth. A long-term anchor that can preserve value across generations. 5,000 ounces and beyond provides insulation from systemic shocks, deep currency failures, and major geopolitical shifts. Historically, this level mirrors the wealthy merchant families who held large vaults of silver during periods of empire transition, war, and monetary resets. When national currencies collapsed, their metal preserved purchasing power, mobility, and influence. The modern silver elite stands in a similar position. This amount of silver can outlast full inflation cycles. It can function as a personal reserve bank. It allows the holder to operate independently of the traditional financial system for extended periods. But this level also demands structure, professional storage, layered security, thoughtful estate planning. Privacy becomes essential, not optional. Here, silver is part of a long-term strategy designed to protect not just the owner, but the family line. Level 5 is the point where silver becomes legacy, durable, transferable, and resistant to the economic tides that reshape nations. Where do you stand? The silver wealth pyramid offers a simple framework for understanding your position in an increasingly unstable economic environment. Most people never reach level 3. Many remain at level 1 without realizing how exposed they are to inflation, currency erosion, and market volatility. But the pyramid is not a competition. It is a roadmap. Each level represents a step toward greater resilience. Every ounce moves you closer to financial independence. Your stack is a reflection of preparation, not wealth. It shows how seriously you take long-term stability in a world where traditional financial systems are under strain. The real question is not how much silver you hold today, but how intentional you are about moving forward. Progress up the pyramid happens through consistency, not speed. By knowing your level, you gain clarity. And with clarity, you gain the ability to build a stronger position, 1 ounce at a time. The future of silver will be shaped by forces already in motion. Global supply is tightening as ore grades fall and new discoveries decline. Industrial demand is rising with solar technology, electrification, and advanced manufacturing. Governments continue to expand debt, weaken currencies, and rely on monetary policies that erode long-term purchasing power. These trends converge into a simple reality. Physical silver is becoming harder to find, more expensive to produce, and more critical to modern economies. In a world of digital promises and fragile financial structures, silver remains one of the few assets with intrinsic value, universal recognition, and centuries of monetary history behind it. The silver wealth pyramid is not just a model, it is a reflection of this shift. Those who understand the pyramid today position themselves ahead of the economic cycles that will define the next decade. And those who act early build resilience long before the mainstream notices the change. In a time of disappearing certainty, silver stands as a quiet constant, a reminder that real wealth is built on what endures.